ever get this weird feeling like you're not alone in your own head? It's like there's a
Yeah.
whole universe in there buzzing away, making decisions, and you're just along for the ride.
Wait,
Well, get ready to meet your inner control center, your nervous system.
absolutely.
We dove into this fascinating anatomy textbook all about how this crazy network,
Yeah.
it dictates everything from feeling like a gentle breeze
Hmm.
to remembering your favorite song to telling your foot to move right now.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
It really is. You've basically got a supercomputer in there running the show,
Oh, wow.
constantly taking in data, processing it,
Okay.
deciding what actions to take.
So it really is true what they say. It's
Yeah.
like having a second brain
Yeah.
that we don't even think about.
That's right.
Okay, so to wrap our heads around this hidden world, let's break it down.
Okay.
We've got the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord,
Mm-hmm.
calling all the shots from their heavily guarded HQ up in the skull. But how do those commands actually get to the rest of the body?
Yeah, so that's where the peripheral nervous system swoops in.
Okay.
So picture a network of messengers just relaying commands
Okay.
from that headquarters, the CNS, to every single corner of your body
Wow.
and reporting back with what's going on.
So it's a two-way communication highway?
It is a two-way communication superhighway.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the structure, is it? It's also about how this system actually works.
Yeah.
How do all these parts work together
You got it.
to make us do the things that we do?
Imagine this. You're walking barefoot, right?
Okay.
And you step on a sharp rock.
Ouch.
Ouch, right?
Hmm.
That pain signal,
Yeah.
that's your sensory nervous system in action.
Okay.
That's the input system telling your brain, hey, we've got a situation here.
And then my brain, or I guess my central nervous system,
Yes.
is instantly figuring out what to do about it. Like, quick, lift your foot.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then that is your motor nervous system kicking in.
So that's the output.
The output system.
Got it.
Carrying those instructions from your brain to your muscles, telling them to spring into action.
So it's like a perfectly choreographed dance
It is.
between sensing and responding, all happening in milliseconds.
Precisely.
Wow, this is incredible.
Now, zooming in even further,
Okay.
let's talk about the stars of this intricate network. Your neurons.
Okay.
Imagine these tiny messengers, trillions of them,
Trillions.
trillions, sending electrical impulses at lightning speed.
Trillions, that's more stars than I can even imagine.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do they work?
So the most common type of neuron is the multipolar neuron.
Multipolar neuron, okay.
Picture it like a busy city center
Okay,
with information just constantly flowing in and out.
got it.
It has these branch-like dendrites that act like antennas, picking up signals from other neurons.
So the dendrites are like the listeners,
Yes.
gathering all the intel.
Yeah.
What happens next?
That information gets zapped down this long cable called the axon.
Kind of like a high-speed fiber optic line,
Oh, wow.
until it reaches the axon terminal.
Axon terminal.
This is where it gets really cool.
Okay.
That signal triggers the release of these chemical messengers
Okay.
called neurotransmitters, which cross a tiny gap
Okay.
called a synapse
A synapse.
to talk to the next neuron.
So it's like a relay race, but with chemicals instead of batons.
Yes, it's a relay race, it's a dance,
It's wild.
it is wild, and it happens so fast.
It's mind-bogglingly fast.
It is, and to make it even faster,
Okay.
many axons are insulated with this fatty substance called myelin.
Oh, like the insulation on an electrical wire?
Exactly, like the
Yeah.
insulation on an electrical wire.
Okay.
This allows those electrical impulses to travel at speeds up to 270 miles per hour.
270 miles per hour.
That's faster than a race car.
That's faster than a race car. Are you serious?
It's true, and this speed is crucial, especially when you consider reflexes,
Which
which are those lightning-fast responses to danger. So you need those signals to travel quickly.
Like if you touch a hot stove.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
need to be able to move your hand away really quickly.
Precisely.
Okay, so speaking of speed, what about those times when our nervous system has to deal with injuries? Can these delicate pathways actually repair themselves?
It's actually pretty amazing.
Okay.
If you injure a nerve in your peripheral nervous system,
Okay.
so you cut your finger,
Hmm.
there's a good chance it could regenerate.
Really?
Thanks to those supportive glial cells that we touched on earlier.
Okay.
They help guide the severed axon
Okay.
to grow back to its target.
So they're like a team of microscopic repair workers.
Exactly. They're like little construction workers in your body rebuilding those pathways.
That's incredible. So our bodies have this built-in healing mechanism for our nerves.
They do.
But what about the central nervous system? What if you injure your spinal cord?
That's where things get a little trickier.
Okay.
The peripheral nervous system is pretty good at bouncing back. The central nervous system is much more complex.
Regeneration is much more limited.
Well, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like trying to rewire a supercomputer after it's been damaged. A much more delicate operation.
But even though central nervous system regeneration is limited,
Okay.
there's a lot of ongoing research
That's
exploring potential therapies.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about how individual neurons work,
Yes,
but they don't operate in isolation, do they?
you're right. They're actually organized into these incredible networks called neuronal pools.
Neuronal pools. Okay.
Think of them like specialized departments,
Okay.
each with a specific function.
So it's like the brain is divided up into these different teams,
Exactly.
each with their own area of expertise.
Yes.
So how do these neuronal pools actually work? Are they hardwired or can they change? So our brains are like giant, bustling cities
Yeah,
with different neuronal neighborhoods specializing in everything
that's right.
from language to emotions.
But if these networks are always firing, how do they adapt to new situations?
Right.
Are we stuck with the brain we're born with?
That's where the magic of neuroplasticity comes in.
Okay.
Our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on our experiences.
Really?
Yeah. It's like having a supercomputer that can upgrade its own hardware and software.
Get out of here.
It's true.
So every time we learn something new, like a new language, a musical instrument,
Yeah,
our brains are actually changing their wiring.
that's right. When we learn those neural pathways, they get stronger,
Okay.
like a muscle being exercised.
Right.
And the more we use those pathways,
Yeah.
the faster and more efficiently those signals can travel.
So it's like paving a new road in our brain.
Exactly.
The more we drive on it, the smoother and faster the journey becomes.
A perfect analogy.
Okay.
And on the flip side, if we stop using those pathways,
Right.
those connections can weaken.
Oh.
That's why it's so important to keep our minds active and engaged throughout our lives.
So use it or lose it.
Exactly. Use it or lose it.
Okay.
Learning new skills,
Right.
challenging our minds, even just being in stimulating environments.
Okay.
These all contribute to keeping our brains healthy and adaptable.
It makes you want to sign up for that pottery class you've been thinking about.
Exactly. Do it.
Get out there and challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, but seriously though,
Yeah.
it's incredible to think our brains are constantly changing and evolving.
It really is.
But what about when things go wrong with this incredible system?
That's an important question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are a number of serious disorders that can affect the nervous system.
Right, and we touched on a few of these earlier.
We did.
You know, we were talking about those lightning-fast nerve impulses.
Yeah.
What happens when those signals get disrupted?
Well, one example is multiple sclerosis, or MS.
MS, right?
In MS, the body's own immune system mistakenly attacks the myelin sheath
Oh, wow.
that protects nerve fibers in the central nervous system.
So it's like stripping the insulation off those electrical wires.
Exactly.
That's
It's like
like-
stripping the insulation off those wires, and the signals get disrupted,
Right.
leading to a whole range of symptoms.
And that sounds really debilitating.
It can be.
What kind of symptoms are we talking about?
It actually varies a lot from person to person.
Okay.
Some people experience mostly sensory problems,
Okay.
like numbness, tingling, or vision changes.
Right.
Others have more motor symptoms like muscle weakness, stiffness, or difficulty with balance and coordination.
So MS can manifest in a whole range of ways,
It can.
depending on which areas of the nervous system are affected.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there's no cure for MS yet.
Oh, man.
But there are medications that can help manage symptoms, slow disease progression,
Okay.
and reduce the frequency and severity of relapses.
Well, that's at least some good news.
It is.
What about other neurological disorders? We touched on Parkinson's disease earlier when we were discussing dopamine.
Yes, Parkinson's is another serious neurodegenerative disorder
Okay.
that affects movement.
Right.
Remember how we talked about dopamine being like the brain's feel good and let's move messenger?
Right. Right.
Well, in Parkinson's, there's a loss of those dopamine-producing neurons in the substantia nigra,
Okay.
a part of the brain that's crucial for movement control.
So it's like the brain's movement control center is missing a key ingredient.
Exactly.
No wonder it leads to those tremors, stiffness, and slow movements
Right.
that are characteristic of the disease.
Precisely. And while there's no cure yet,
Right.
there are medications and therapies that can help manage those symptoms and improve quality of life.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how much we're learning about the brain and these complex disorders.
It is.
It makes
Yeah.
you realize how important research is
It is.
in finding new treatments and hopefully cures.
Absolutely. And speaking of research, There's another group of neurological disorders that are still baffling scientists. Neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Oh, man. Alzheimer's is heartbreaking.
It is.
The memory loss, the confusion.
Yeah,
It's like slowly losing a part of yourself.
it is.
What's going on in the brain with Alzheimer's?
Scientists believe it's a combination of factors,
Okay.
including the buildup of certain proteins in the brain,
Okay.
like amyloid plaques and tau tangles.
Wow.
And these proteins, they disrupt communication between neurons
Okay.
and eventually lead to cell death.
So it's like the brain's intricate wiring is getting all gummed up and short-circuiting.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And as those neurons die, the brain literally shrinks,
Oh, wow.
leading to those devastating cognitive problems that we see in Alzheimer's patients.
This is heavy stuff,
It is.
but incredibly important to understand.
It is.
Are there any promising leads in Alzheimer's research?
Researchers are working tirelessly to develop treatments that can slow or even reverse the progression of the disease. Some promising avenues include targeting those amyloid plaques and tau tangles,
Okay.
reducing inflammation in the brain,
Right.
and developing drugs that can enhance communication between neurons.
So basically trying to undo that damage
Exactly.
that's being done.
Trying to find ways to clear out those plaques and tangles
Right.
and to protect those neurons from further damage.
Let's hope they find some breakthroughs soon.
I hope so too.
Now, we've talked a lot about how the nervous system works when everything's running smoothly.
We have.
But I've always wondered, what happens if we sustain damage to specific groups of neurons?
Yeah, it's amazing how resilient our brains can be.
Yeah.
But damage to specific areas can lead to some pretty specific and often profound effects.
Like what?
For example, damage to Broca's area, a region in the left frontal lobe,
Okay.
can lead to Broca's aphasia. Have you ever heard of that?
It rings a bell, but I can't quite place it.
Okay, so basically, people with Broca's aphasia have trouble speaking fluently,
Okay.
even though they can understand language perfectly well.
Oh, wow.
They know what they want to say, but they just can't get the words out in a smooth, connected way.
That must be incredibly frustrating.
It is incredibly frustrating.
To know what you want to say, but not be able to say it.
Exactly, and it's a very specific deficit
Right.
that results from damage to a very specific area of the brain.
So damage to a very specific area of the brain can lead to a very specific disruption
Yes.
in a particular function.
Exactly. Another example is Wernicke's area,
Okay.
which is also involved in language, but this time it's more about language comprehension.
Okay.
Damage to Wernicke's area can lead to Wernicke's aphasia,
Okay.
where people can speak fluently, but their words are often jumbled and don't make sense.
Oh, wow.
They also have trouble understanding language.
So in Broca's aphasia, you can understand but not speak properly.
Right.
And in Wernicke's aphasia, you can speak but not understand properly.
You got it.
Wow, that's wild.
Just goes to show how specialized different areas of the brain can be.
It really does.
It's a fascinating and complex system.
It is.
And it highlights the delicate balance that exists within the brain.
Right.
Even small disruptions can have significant consequences.
Speaking of delicate balance,
Yes.
I'm thinking back to those neurotransmitters we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They seem to play a huge role
They do.
in regulating everything from our mood to our ability to move.
They absolutely do. Neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers that allow neurons to communicate with each other
Right.
and with other cells in the body.
Right. We already talked about acetylcholine and dopamine.
We did.
But what about some of the other key players in this chemical symphony?
Well, one important one is serotonin,
Okay.
often referred to as the mood stabilizer neurotransmitter.
Oh, serotonin.
Yeah.
Knew that sounded familiar.
It plays a role in a wide range of functions,
Okay.
including mood regulation, sleep, appetite, and even digestion.
Isn't that the neurotransmitter that many antidepressants target?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Low levels of serotonin have been linked to depression. And many antidepressants work by increasing serotonin levels in the brain.
It's amazing how one single neurotransmitter can have such wide-ranging effects
It is.
on our mental and physical well-being.
It really is. And then we have norepinephrine, also known as noradrenaline,
Okay.
which is involved in our fight or flight response to stress.
Right.
Have you ever noticed how your heart races and your palms get sweaty
Oh, yeah.
when you're feeling anxious or threatened?
Tell me about it.
That's norepinephrine in action.
Right.
It increases alertness, heart rate, and blood pressure,
Right.
preparing us to respond to those perceived threats.
So it's like our body's built-in alarm system
Exactly.
kicking in when it senses danger.
That's a great way to put it.
It's amazing how all these systems work together,
It is.
even when we're not consciously aware of it.
I know, it makes you wonder what else is going on there that we don't even realize.
Right.
And finally, we have GABA,
GABA.
which stands for gamma amidobutyric acid. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain,
Okay, so what does that mean?
meaning it acts like a brake, slowing down neural activity.
So it's the calming influence,
Yes, exactly.
counteracting all that excitatory chatter in our brain.
Exactly. GABA is essential for reducing anxiety, promoting relaxation, and regulating sleep.
So it's like the chill pill
It is like the chill pill of the brain.
of our brain's chemical cocktail.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how this intricate balance of excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters
Yeah.
is constantly shaping our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
It really is a delicate dance, and when this balance is disrupted,
Right.
it can contribute to a variety of mental and physical health problems.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how important it is to take care of our brains.
It does.
Getting enough sleep, managing stress, eating a healthy diet,
Mhm.
all of these things can impact that delicate balance
They do.
of neurotransmitters in our brains.
Absolutely. We often take our brains for granted, but they are incredibly complex and powerful organs that deserve our care and attention.
They really do. Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I'm curious about something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
Those early stages of development when our nervous system is first forming,
Right.
it seems like such a delicate and intricate process. How does it all happen?
It really is mind-blowing.
It really is mind-blowing to think that our brains and spinal cords essentially start out as this tiny tube of cells in the womb.
It's a process called neurulation,
Okay.
and it's one of the most critical stages of embryonic development.
So how does it actually work?
So imagine a flat sheet of cells
Okay.
that starts to fold in on itself,
Okay.
creating a groove.
Kind of like folding a piece of paper in half lengthwise?
Exactly.
Right.
And that groove keeps folding
Okay.
until the edges meet and fuse together,
Wow.
forming a hollow tube
Okay.
called the neural tube.
And that little tube eventually becomes our entire central nervous system.
The anterior or front part of the tube develops into the brain,
Okay.
while the posterior part becomes the spinal cord.
It's like this tiny construction crew is laying the foundation for our entire sensory,
Yeah.
motor, cognitive, like all of our
It's
abilities.
pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
It is.
And what happens if something goes wrong during this critical period?
That's when you can see neural tube defects,
Okay.
like spina bifida,
Right.
which occurs when the posterior part of the neural tube doesn't close completely.
Right. And that can lead to
A variety of problems.
a variety of problems.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can.
It's amazing how this delicate process unfolds
It is.
and how important those early weeks of pregnancy are.
It really highlights the incredible complexity
Yeah.
and vulnerability of human development.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So we've journeyed from the cellular level
Yeah.
with neurons and glial cells.
We've seen how these systems work together to allow us to experience the world around us,
Right.
respond to stimuli,
Right.
and even reflect on our own existence.
Yeah. And even reflect on our own existence, which is kind of a trip when you think about it too much.
It really is.
It's truly awe-inspiring.
It is.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final thought.
Okay.
We've talked about how different areas of the brain specialize in different functions.
We have.
But it's important to remember that it's not a simple one-to-one relationship.
That's right. The brain is not a collection of isolated compartments.
Okay.
It's a highly interconnected network
Right.
where different regions constantly communicate and collaborate.
So even a simple action like picking up a glass of water
Yeah.
involves a symphony of neural activity
Yes.
across multiple brain regions.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when we talk about damage to a specific area,
Right.
it's not always a case of if this, then that. The brain has an incredible ability to adapt and compensate.
Well, that's reassuring to know.
It is. It is.
So even though we've learned a lot today about how the nervous system works, it's
Yeah.
really just the tip of the iceberg.
It really is. There are still so many mysteries to uncover
Oh, I'm sure.
and so much more to learn about this incredible system that makes us who we are.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the nervous system.
It's been fun.
It's been a journey, it really has. But remember,
Yeah,
the exploration doesn't have to stop here.
it doesn't.
Keep those neurons firing
Keep them firing.
and never stop being curious about the wonders of your own brain.
Until next time, keep exploring.